Man, you know what's so brutal about that Arizona game?
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen and first watch each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for your support. And hey, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. Where we get started today is the sudden surge from UCLA men's hoops, right? Mick Cronin, he's looking at the scoreboard. I'm sitting there watching the game. They're in Salt Lake City. Everybody's miserable because the Bruins got waxed by 50 in the Salt Lake City slaughter, right? They got brutally beaten down against the Utah Utes. Well, then all of a sudden, in the span of a couple weeks, they start looking like a cohesive unit, playing better despite a couple of injuries here and there, getting unexpected contributions. And this all of a sudden starts to think of a team which was Mick Cronin's first back in 1920. Now here we are with the team after the first 4-year cycle for Cronin, setting himself up for growth and potential success down the line. Where does that Arizona loss hurt UCLA? Other than, of course, you can go back and forth. Was it refs? Was it a choke job? Was it just a young team still learning to win, but showcasing immediate signs of growth after winning 2 games right after getting blown out in Salt Lake City? Well, all those things are true in my mind. The importance of one or the other doesn't really matter. The fact that UCLA is currently sitting under 500 at 9-11, but after their beatdown win at USC in front of a sellout crowd in a warm but ice-cold Galen Center, the Bruins sit 9-11, 4-5 in Pac-12 play, welcoming in the Oregon schools where you've got the Ducks, who are currently tied for first place, and then you've got Oregon State, who just swept both Arizona schools who had currently come in with winning records prior to playing Oregon and Oregon State in the conference. The win for UCLA, they had beaten Arizona. So brutal, right? Because they would be currently tied with the Cats in the standings, with the upper hand currently in the head-to-head, a game behind Oregon in first place, with them coming to Pauley in a week. Okay, now with everything that's gone on, right? You had to go play USC, the Bruins without Badike. They've been without him before due to injury, without him due to eligibility. Adai hasn't panned out as well as we would have liked. We haven't seen any of Devin Williams, even though Mick Cronin had said, all right, we're not going to see much of him until the USC game when he mightily contributes alongside Adai Mata with Badike out. The bingo card you didn't know you had, all of a sudden it was bingo, WIN at USC, which Mick Cronin had done, which was use those guys and do something, complete something, which was one, a win at USC under the Mick Cronin era, and, important for a program note, 2,000 program wins for UCLA men's basketball in the history, the illustrious history of the UCLA men's basketball team. But now they grow, right? This is a team where Mick Cronin has been asked numerous times, whether it's by me, largely by media, everybody talking about, what would Jaime do? What makes him so special? Because he's having so much success in Miami. Why are we missing? And it's, hey, they're missing so many contributors from last year's team. The Pac-12 Freshman of the Year candidate, if he didn't get hurt, Amari Bailey, probably should have stayed after seeing how it's panned out so far. Would have loved to have him there. You had a late injury to Bona, but he's obviously still here making big strides for the Bruins. You're missing Jalen Clark, Defensive Player of the Year in the country. Jaime Jaquez Jr., Tiger Campbell, and an elite three-point shooter for a team that needs elite three-point shooting in Dave Singleton, which is a very underrated loss. And while I love what Stefanovic has been able to do, he plays a lot of minutes. Mick Cronin asks so much of him. The Bruins are just missing a lot. It took a while for this team to get its footing. And if you look at the losses, where they came back in 2019 to 2020 to mid-majors, programs you'd expect the Bruins to be, in close wins or games away across the country against the North Carolina this year, against Ohio State, at home versus Maryland. You can see the similarities, and they've been playing good defense. Now, if they can get these close games to go their way down the stretch, like the Arizona game did not, but the Arizona State game did, if you can get more performances where you just completely suffocate the opponent's offensive ability, like USC, who is playing without, yes, Collier, Boogie coming back from injury, those things must be noted, and a team that's had similar struggles, you can see a hype train and a UCLA team that was still not preseason love. They did not get a lot of preseason love. When it came to the tournament, whether it came to top 25 action, UCLA was seen to be worse than USC. Both teams have struggled, but you can see where one program is crosstown, and that is UCLA surging up. Tempered expectations. If the Bruins can go out, beat a sneaky Oregon State team after their two best wins of the year at home, where they've actually been very good at home in Corvallis, beat the Beavers, somehow knock off Oregon that does have Nafali Dante back. He did not play against UCLA the first time in Eugene. You can start to do things for UCLA with maybe Mick Cronin changing combinations that we hadn't seen before. One, keeping Bona out of foul trouble and yet him having 32 minutes played like he did against USC. All of a sudden, you look at a team across the other side that had 50 points. Now, missed shots, turnovers, everything had to do that for UCLA against USC. Still, the Bruins need more to be successful. They're getting there. Cronin's pushing. There's been growth. 3-point shooting, significant. We've seen Dylan Andrews struggle to shoot the basketball. But against USC, couldn't miss from three. Was cutting to the rim, making plays, getting fouled, shooting 3-point jump shots. Now, if UCLA has this mantra and this mentality, not that they've spewed it, but it can pretty much go unspoken and said by the way they play, any given night, anybody can step up. That is what this team needs. There is not one superstar. Bona is elite, but he is elite defensively, athletically, and he's grown a bit offensively, but he cannot carry UCLA himself offensively. Him being on the floor, healthy, available, out of foul trouble, makes UCLA contender to beat just about anybody who is across court from them, right? It doesn't matter who's across. If Bona's in the game, healthy and out of foul trouble and making smart decisions, the Bruins will be in any game. But to win games, Cronin is dialing up what combinations it could be. Well, if Bona's out, who played key roles in the USC game? Williams and Adai next to each other. Sometimes it's Sebastian Mack who is drilling threes against Arizona. Dylan Andrews against USC. Stefanovic making big buckets in that surge, right? 15, 17 points. You do that, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a UCLA loss if Stefanovic is scoring 15 to 17, hitting baseline jumpers, hitting a three here and there. All that combined, you get a couple of clutch shots from Will McClendon and company, some added defense. This is a team that could be deeper and as deep as Mick Cronin touted it to be before this year with all the freshman young talent. And I haven't even talked about Brandon Williams, who has been good for UCLA in spurts, just like most of the freshmen have. Who's been good here? Who's been good there? Any given night, the Bruins are going to need someone from the perimeter specifically to get hot, hit jump shots, have another guy hit a timely jumper. You keep that in with Bona, and all of a sudden this team is contending with defense that's still not the best Cronin's ever had, but it's very, very good. And they can even stand to get a lot better individually, defensively, across the board, maybe outside of a Dem Bona, who saves everybody's buttocks when it comes to cleaning up the glass and keeping shots away from the cup, right? He is just so athletic and dynamic. That is the good thing for UCLA, the growth. It sucks that the Arizona game went the way it did. But all of a sudden, UCLA is creeping to 500. They could be at 500 right now if that Arizona game or many of these other games didn't go the way they did, close late down the stretch. But hey, got to keep an eye on the Bruins. Heck, even the great John Rothstein, who comes in, oh, look at you. Hey, the Bruins are getting noticed despite their under 500 record. Now they're going to have to maybe wait for 1 week in March to make their season known and play for it. But they might use all these coming weeks with big games coming. Oregon State, the Bay Area schools on the road, to show you what they look like the second time coming around is going to be very telling. Cronin coached up his kids the second time with the game plan, They execute that. That is a watch out for this UCLA Bruins team. Speaking of watch out, UCLA women Cori Close, they have struggled this last week. Some close, heartbreaking losses, whether it be in overtime to Utah, a close loss to Washington State, a very close win against Washington, and Lauren Betts not playing big roles in the Utah game, getting pulled, and then all of a sudden not being there. What does this all mean? What is going on after an emotional Cori Close in the postgame? Very emotional after a regular season loss. Let's talk about it next on Locked On UCLA. Patient drive and passions. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything to maintain your vehicle and level up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof rack, exhaust kits, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 120 million plus parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. Bring home the parts you need at the prices you want. Easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that dub. Keep your ride or die alive. ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. All right, second segment here on Locked On UCLA. What is up with UCLA women's basketball? A team that slid so far down the rankings to number 7 in the country, and a team that's got quite a bit going on. A busy week. The women had to go to the mountain schools. Let's refresh our minds as to what's been going on for Cori Close's bunch, right? It started with a very tough stretch to play USC for the second time in 2 weeks on the road, a sellout crowd, a game where, mind you, Lauren Betts did not start. She did not start against USC, and I think at the time it was said to be an illness. Whatever, both teams pretty much with one player out here and there, but UCLA had Betts play. The Bruins played it down to the wire, turned it over a lot, had a chance to get back into it in the final minute against USC, and did not. They lost on the road to the Trojans, who have now not spiraled, but lost a couple on the road with the younger team and Juju Watkins, only a freshman. The Bruins rebounded less than a week later in Boulder against the team that in Colorado was number 3. They beat LSU. That was their biggest win. Colorado had been very good to that point. A sellout in Boulder, homecoming for Lauren Betts. The Bruins go out and competitive, down early, win that game. Then all of a sudden, they have to wait till Monday, a Friday to Monday. That's a weird long stretch. And with the way the schedule works, you think about it. It's one thing to go Wednesday to Saturday, but to go play a longer game and a longer week for UCLA like they did, Friday to Monday, that just affects schooling. It affects so much. As much as we think athletes don't really go to school sometimes, maybe wherever, with all the NIL and everything, that's still important. Weird trips, altitude, tough opponents. Utah is the preseason Pac-12 favorite. That's a Monday night. The Bruins had that game in a comeback win, and they gave up a late layup where Betts gets pulled. And Bruins were being a little more successful, played a little more successful without her, and had a chance to steal it. Sometimes you do a snap in-game adjustment, and all of a sudden you can win that. And the Bruins were that close to winning against Utah. All of a sudden they get back a little bit of a shorter week, Friday, Sunday, regular scheduling there. And you play the Washington schools. And I wondered if that Washington game would be a sleepy game after tough 3 games in a row against top-tier, potential top 10, top 15 talent, where the Bruins had to face Colorado, SC, Utah. Not in that order. All on the road. You come back to play Washington, who is a scrappy team defensively, underrated in the Pac-12, one of the best at guarding the 3. And I was like, all right, I hope what happens, these different things happen, but you have to be careful. Washington guards the 3 really well. Well, all of a sudden, Betts was out, undisclosed medical personal reason, and then UCLA struggled with the Huskies. Washington defended the Bruins pretty well. The UCLA eventually pulled away to get that win. I figured that would be a little bit of a struggle, and it was more in part due to an absence and because of very good defense from Washington. They just couldn't shoot. Otherwise, the Bruins might have been in extreme danger Friday night. You come to Sunday afternoon. Washington State, the preseason dark horse in the Pac-12. Pac-12 tournament champions, Charlize Ledger-Walker, Murakatete, everything leading itself to a potential Wazoo dub, right? They had just lost to USC on the road. There's no way they're going to get a split. Well, then all of a sudden, Betts out again. Ledger Walker leading Wazoo to a clear and easy lead, right? They were dominating the Bruins. UCLA seemed out of it, down 16 in the first half. UCLA, 14 turnovers, not shooting the best early, and then all of a sudden they turned it on. Ledger Walker gets hurt. Mind you, UCLA is playing the whole game without Betts. Ledger Walker mixed with some defense, some timely plays. All this switches the momentum in the game to where UCLA late makes it a one-possession game after a couple of missed free throws and just can't get that tying bucket to fall in for UCLA, even though a pretty good shooting performance from London Jones, who shot better than 50% from three. She had 19 points against Wazoo. Dugalich in the starting lineup with 10 and 6. You had Osborne, who went 25 and 4. Kiki Rice, 25 and 6 and 5. She was doing everything she could. And UCLA still felt a little short because a lot of the points scored by Wazoo, a good chunk, points in the paint. You had 32 points in the paint. You mix in 27 free throws, and that's just almost unguardable when you give up 60 points either at the paint combined with the free throw line. You're just not going to win a lot of those games. And Wazoo made a lot of those free throws count late in the fourth quarter. The Bruins, you're just not going to win a lot of those games. And that's where they miss Lauren Betts. At the moment, there is nothing I can comment on that I know at this moment, at this recording of the podcast, that makes us know anything more as to why, specifics, the length, the severity. I don't know. But you can judge if you watch the emotions from Kiki Rice, from Cori Close. It is a unique emotional way that they were dealing with the game and the aftermath of that game, how they were fighting back, the appreciation, but something bigger. And I can't really speculate. Of course, my brain's swirling too. I have my thoughts and opinions. I don't think it's really favorable or fair to share those in this format, whatever I think up there in this particular instance, because they haven't really given us a lot. All I know is that with Emily Vissoir, when the news kind of broke that she had hurt her knee, she was out for the year. It took a little bit before that news came out. Now, I hope something changes and everything's okay with Betts and whatever it may be that's going on with the team behind the scenes. But there's a clear need, hopefully that can be addressed with on the court and off the court issues. UCLA is still a very good basketball team, and they are national championship good with Betts. But obviously, if there's something more going on, we hope everything is okay. But clearly the team is different just with the number one recruit in the country at that point. Even if she didn't make the biggest of impacts in Utah for whatever reason that was, whether it's all connected or not, this team is very good. They have heart. They have championship grit. I believe this team can rebound. Now we just hope, with no knowledge of the situation at all, that's what everybody's asking in women's basketball. After the big LSU South Carolina game that everybody talking, I think the biggest news is what's going on. And yes, we hope Ledger Walker's okay after her injury for Wazoo. She was flat out playing very well. 19 minutes, 17 points, and 9 shots. That is efficiency at its finest and domination, like she led the Cougars to the Pac-12 tournament championship she did a year ago. Now, can the Bruins get enough shooting, fixing what might be a huge hole in the paint if they can't get back Betts? Who knows? They're already missing Vissoir, who was the next option in the post. UCLA is looking a little thin. Now, we hope everything's okay. I got no information. And we can see what UCLA needed to get this year. Cori Close went into the portal and went to recruiting and filled that this year with the roster, with the addition of Betts. That is how important she is to this roster. You talk about most valuable player, you can see these last few games the importance of one individual that can help make the difference between what they needed and what's missing. Now, we hope everything's good. I got nothing in terms of actual specifics that can help understand, but we hope she's okay, and we wonder what it is. And as soon as there's anything, we'll talk about it, and we'll discuss it here on the show. At the moment, there's nothing. But there is heart with this team that fought and fell short 85-82 to Wazoo. UCLA 16-3, 5-3 in conference, maybe slipping out of the race in the Pac-12 championship in the regular season, needing a couple of slip-ups from some teams and some wins in others. Can the Bruins do it? They've got big games coming up. Bay Area schools, they've got some tough games to play for the women's side, where number 2 has fallen to number 7, and yet LSU's lost again. It's wild and wide open in this week for college basketball in the women's side too. Cal and Stanford on the road. How can they deal with everything that's going on? Teams floating at the edge of the tournament to tournament contenders, championship contenders in Stanford. What's going to happen? We'll find out. We'll talk more on Locked On UCLA. Next, we're going to talk a little bit UCLA football coaches. They're out on the recruiting trails and a decommit. We're going to talk about that. That happened over the weekend on Locked On UCLA. All right, the big game's coming up. And to all who celebrate the big day, right? FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's where you got to go to get any love. Because if you're like me, it's all about scoring the best seat on the couch. Of course, you love your best snacks, your favorite football snacks. Maybe it's wings, maybe it's a burger, and you got to play some super bets, some super bets. Because the props are all over the place. Whether it's a T-Swizzle, is she going to make it there on time? Playing, regardless of the opponents, what other prop bets you're going to go and check it out? Many ways with FanDuel that you can end the season in a W. Even if our personal teams didn't make it to the championship, make it to the final, make it to the end there for the big game, hey, with a 1, 2, or 3, check it out, the W on FanDuel. Because you can bet who scores a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. New customers, join today. $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, busy day. Busy day. You're looking all over social media. You're a big UCLA football fan. Every coach is out on the recruiting trail, right? They're making their faces known more for the class of 25. While the Bruins could be looking to wrap up a portal commit or two with a later signing day, or a high school guy that may have decommitted with all the crazy coaching switches, from retirements from Saban, firings, all the way from the NFL, mixing into what could change in college football. How does that all affect, right? With Jed Fish going to Washington, DeBoer going to Alabama, Harbaugh leaving, how that all affects one recruit, not a specific guy, but how that can all change via the portal, what that means for UCLA. Well, the more recent thing that happened for the Bruins was the fact that they did lose a commit in the most recent class, right? They lost Blake Tabarachi. It's the second commit that UCLA has seen decommit. They had an initial transfer portal commit, Marcus Ratcliffe, decided to go to A&M. So it's the second guy defensively that in this recruiting cycle has decided to go elsewhere. The Bruins have lost Niumatalolo and his son, Ken Niumatalolo being in San Jose State, his son going elsewhere to be a coach in another school. So the Bruins seeing a little bit of some exodus with coaches and players a little bit later, right? Now, I guess there's also the big fear, the rumors, which we'll try and address a little bit more on the next Locked On UCLA episode. Chip Kelly to the NFL. Yes, no, maybe so. Replacements, everything here on Locked On UCLA. But hey, for the second year in a row, you had a linebacker / athlete of sorts want to become committed to UCLA and not sign during the early signing day, which means that he's probably not signing. Early signing day has turned into signing day, and then later signing day is just late signing day. That's basically what it means. That is what it means right here, right now. So I'm not sure how much they're missing, because the Bruins, I believe, have quite a bit coming back. Of the defensive side of things, from the D-line to the secondary, I think the linebacking room, in my opinion, has the most coming back. Obviously, it's different depending if there's crazy last-minute switches. I'd like to believe that for UCLA's linebacking room, they're going to be all right. Now, Tabarachi, from reading what I saw on 24/7 Sports with Brew Report about a little bit of an injury, UCLA in a gray shirt situation, wanting to see, hey, does he want a gray shirt? How's that going to affect? This is all I'm getting from Bro Report, 24/7 Sports, him decommitting, and all that turning into, I'm not sure I want a gray shirt. I want to get to play, red shirt. I want to make sure I do that. That didn't lead to a successful continued committal, right? That's how it happens, whether it's today's day and age, whether you're shopping around dating, whether you're trying to commitment for a job, or simply recruiting, one little thing can change it. And sometimes an injury for a commit who's looking to go to a Power 5, Power 4 conference school means the best for a Mountain West conference. For an FCS level school, still all D1, where you get a super talented individual, could be like a Blake Tabarachi, a Utah native, a linebacker, where someone who's a little bit banged up comes in, all of a sudden, bam, that can be your best player immediately. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but that is how those guys can slip through the cracks. Yeah, so many spots that you're trying to fill. UCLA is doing an overhaul of the defense. In a more recent Locked On UCLA episode, I talked about rebuild or reload with this defense. And while the Bruins have lost 2 commits defensively, that could have made combined, added to the depth, added to a reloading and a revamping of the defense under Ikaika Malloy taking over for Danton Lind, who's now a co-defensive coordinator at USC. That's wacky that they give him a raise and all those things just for him to be a co-defensive coordinator. Whole nother thing. It's not really what it was tied to. What I've read and understood, it's more individual, not full-on lost him because of Danton Lind, right? Or because of an Uber NIL deal elsewhere. That's not where the situation is. But it is nice to see, hey, Chip's out there, right? You can already see Darren Usher tweeting, hey, look at these guys. We're on it. Trying to throw out love to the coaches. The new director of recruiting, player personnel coming over from Oregon, he's already making his presence known. I think Chip Kelly knows where his shortcomings are in social media. That's why he goes getting a young gun to help address that, right? Help, up the brand. Not like UCLA has brand issues, but apparently they do. Come to UCLA, add all those things, and then while Chip Kelly might not be the low school quacious, or he maybe doesn't even have to in those parent-player meetings and official visits, because all they're going to be is, what am I getting NIL-wise? And UCLA is going to be like, nada thing, like all those other schools are going to pay you lots of money unofficially to go there. We'll see how it goes, but they're trying to address those things, and they're making their voices known. They're hitting the recruiting trails hard. We'll talk more about who they're going after, who can still come in 24, who can come in 25, and what this all means going forward for UCLA football. From the recent decommit, second one from UCLA that I've known about for the defensive side of things, and they've got a lot of guys who have already officially signed to be Bruins and are moving on from transfer portal, 11 of them, and then 10 hard commits, 10 guys who signed their 11 of 10. 21 in this big class, and there's going to be a lot of spots to fill still for UCLA, which is why you should like, comment, subscribe, review this podcast. We'll have more content. Thanks for your support. Hands up, Bruins fans. A-clap time. It's always sweet to beat USC, baby. And hey, the women, they're going to get it locked and loaded and get it back and going. We believe in Cori Close and her team, all right? Hey. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA. Fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. It's Zach signing off. Go Bruins.